Hello and welcome to The Buck Stops Here. I'm Ankita Mukherjee. The headlines tonight are all about Rahul Gandhi's theatrical journey, his arrest and release, and about the government accusing the Congress of orchestrating and instigating farmers' protests. But has politics drowned out the very real issue of farmer distress? Here are some utterly stark statistics. 12,000 farmers committed suicide every year since 2013. That's what the centre told the Supreme Court this week. An average farmer earns just 1,200 rupees a month. It would cost a staggering 3 lakh crores for a nationwide loan waiver. But would that be a lasting solution? Can India see beyond political platitudes when it comes to the farmer crisis?
First, he took a plane from Delhi, then a car from Udaipur.
राहुल जी कैसा व्यवहार हुआ राहुल जी आपके साथ?
Stopped near the Madhya Pradesh border, Rahul Gandhi had to jostle with the police to get on a bike. Then another. But not able to get past the border at the toll plaza, he walked into Madhya Pradesh. All this to try and meet families of the farmers killed in police firing.
नरेंद्र मोदी ने हिंदुस्तान के सबसे अमीर लोगों का 1,50,000 करोड़ रुपया माफ किया है। किसान को सिर्फ गोली दे सकते हैं, गोली।
जो सुरक्षा व्यवस्था है उसको तोड़ के जिस तरह से प्रयास किया है, ये उचित नहीं है। पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय नेता हैं और वो बाइक पे बिना हेलमेट के और जिस तरह से जैसे कॉलेज के स्टूडेंट जिस तरह से करते हैं, इस तरह से सारा घटनाक्रम उन्होंने किया।
Finally, at Neemuch, Rahul Gandhi was arrested and taken to a makeshift jail after he refused bail. He was simply released in the evening at the Rajasthan border. But has politics now overtaken the protests?
एक भूतपूर्व मंत्री, एक भूतपूर्व 10 साल तक का मुख्यमंत्री, हम क्या आग लगाने आए? हम आग बुझाने आए हैं।
As the Congress tried to get political mileage, the Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister called for calm.
चर्चा करके समस्याओं का समाधान हो सकता है, लेकिन कुछ अराजक तत्व प्रदेश को हिंसा की आग में झोंकना चाहते हैं, उनसे हम सख्ती से निपटेंगे।
And the Union Home Minister alleged protests were being orchestrated.
एनडीए की सरकार, बीजेपी की सरकार कोई ऐसा काम नहीं करेगी जिससे कि किसानों का अथवा देश के किसी सामान्य नागरिक का भरोसा और विश्वास उससे टूटे। कुछ ताकतें हैं जिन्होंने की इंस्टिगेट करने की कोशिश की है।
पुलिस की तरफ से, चाहे वो सीआरपीएफ हो चाहे बाकी सब हो, उनकी तरफ से कोई फायरिंग नहीं हुई है।
But after vehemently denying it for 2 days, the Madhya Pradesh government finally accepted that the police had indeed fired at protesters, killing 5.
जिन 5 किसानों की मृत्यु हुई है, वह पुलिस की गोली से ही मृत्यु हुई है।
The region crawling with additional forces, but the protests are continuing. Malwa remains tense, vehicles were burnt, and there was violence reported from Shajapur. In Mandsaur, 82 protesters have been arrested, the toll plaza vandalized, and 10 lakh rupees looted. The area superintendent of police and district magistrate have been transferred. The new man in charge claims everything will be under control soon. Meanwhile, many of those injured during the agitation claim no one has reached out to them even after 48 hours.
कोई शासन से, ना प्रशासन से, ना कोई राजनीतिक लोग, कोई हमारे समाचार तक पूछने नहीं आया। पड़े 3 दिनों को यहाँ पे अभी तक।
With camera person Rizwan Khan, Anurag Bari for NDTV.
Well, we're cutting through the political noise tonight to speak to experts. Joining us on The Buck Stops here, Yogendra Yadav, National President of co-founder of Swaraj India. We're also being joined by Dr. Jagdish Shettigar, economist and someone who's advised former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, as well as headed the BJP's economic cell in the past. P. Chengal Reddy, Chief Advisor of the Consortium of Indian Farmers Associations, is joining us, and we're also expected to be joined by Dr. Surjit Bhalla as well. But Yogendra Yadav, let me begin with you. Beyond the headlines, beyond all the shrill politicking that we've seen in the last couple of days, why is this a crisis that we all need to be deeply concerned about? Why is it that farmers of Madhya Pradesh and indeed Maharashtra, Gujarat and beyond are so very upset?
Let's begin by acknowledging some fundamental things. This crisis is not a localized crisis. It so happens that it's erupted in Maharashtra and in Madhya Pradesh, but it could well have been Karnataka, it could well have been Rajasthan. It's almost a nationwide crisis. Second, it's not a seasonal phenomena. We are not looking at a very bad year. In fact, this was a good year, good monsoon, bumper crop. This is not the year when this should have happened. And this is not something which is specific to any one crop. This is across the crop. What we are looking at, Ankita, is a fundamental crisis of Indian farming. It is an ecological crisis, it's an economic crisis, and it's an existential crisis of the Indian farmer. Unless we recognize this, we would be focusing on the symptoms, we would be focusing on who said what to whom, who was arrested, who went where, who was doing yoga, who was being arrested and things of that sort. That's not the real issue here. The real thing is that farming is unviable in this country. Farming is a loss-making proposition. The largest single occupation of this country has become unviable. No farmer wants his son or daughter to become a farmer. They do not earn. In the best of years, they barely manage to survive and pay back old loans. In a bad year, they sink into a debt trap, never to recover. And once it goes bad, it leads to suicide. So this is a structural crisis that we are dealing with. It happens to have erupted in Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. But there are bigger and fundamental questions to be asked, and those questions are to do with farmers' income. Unless something is thought about supplementing, reinforcing and assuring a minimum income to the farmers in this country, no solution would work. We would end up in similar situations, similar crises and similar tragedies over and over again.
Yes. I want to take that across to Dr. Jagdish Shettigar. Yogendra Yadav talks about boosting farmer incomes, and that was a promise that was made by this government when it came to power. They talked about there were assurances given to the farmers during the election campaign that, for instance, the minimum support price would be 50% more than the cost of agricultural produce, and there is this very real feeling that that was a promise that was reneged upon.
No, I do agree with Dr. Yogendra Yadav that the farmers are not getting remunerative prices. But the question is how to address this problem. It is not just by raising the minimum support price. We should enable the farmers to get a better price. One, by accessing the mandis, that is a market. Right now, the farmers cannot access the market. It is only the middlemen who actually exploit the farmers. This government has mentioned in the last budget, they announced that APMC Act will be amended so that the farmers will be able to come to the market, and so that they will get the benefit of whatever the farm producers command the price in the market. But then it is in the hands of the state governments to amend this APMC Act. Certain states definitely amended this act, but then it has to be implemented. So we have to ensure that the farmers getting the better prices, and then also there are reforms. For instance, the present crisis, the farmers not getting a better price for some of the perishable products like tomatoes. They said that 1 or 2 rupees. Now this type of the product, especially the perishable product, the farmers can store and wait till they get a good price in the same way as the industrial product. They simply cannot. For that we require the better infrastructures like cold chain,
storage
cold
facilities,
storage,
and cold
plus
chains.
Also the refrigerated transportation system.
Yes.
Now various the different governments, including
So
the
why
previous,
has that been such a problem, sir, considering budgetary allocation for agriculture in 2017 is double that of the year before? Why is this not translating into better infrastructure?
No, as far as the government is concerned, there is a limitation with regarding the providing required the resources. We had to facilitate the private sector stepping in. Now the previous NDA government definitely came forward with providing the incentives to set up the infrastructure facilities like the cold chain systems, but the progress was not very satisfactory. And again, the next government, when Lalu Prasad Yadav was the railway minister, he also ensured that the transportation and then refrigerated
Ankita, can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead, Ogender.
Because I can't resist the temptation. For once, I have someone from BJP who actually understands the issue and is speaking a very reasonable language. Sir, I just want to ask you a question. The Prime Minister of the country made a solemn promise. This was in the BJP manifesto. It was not a vague promise, it was in black and white. It said 50% over and above cost. It was not just a casual promise made in one manifesto, it was repeated across the states in series of Vidhan Sabha manifestos. Now, once the promise is made, is the farmer not entitled to turning around and saying what happened to that promise? When the government goes to the Supreme Court and files an affidavit saying, oh, this promise cannot be fulfilled, then we have intelligent economists who come and say, oh, but that's a very difficult thing, this cannot be done, etc. Tell me, is the farmer not entitled to being angry about this? Should they not feel cheated?
All right, I'm also going to bring in Surjit Bhalla, who's coming in at this point, and perhaps he would like to respond to that. Surjit Bhalla, the question that's being asked over here is that, there seems to be this sense of betrayal that the assurances given to farmers during this government's election campaign that the minimum support price would be 50% more than the cost of agricultural produce, that was a promise that was reneged upon.
Look, there are throughout Indian political history, this is not the first time, politicians of all parties make promises. So I don't know what is the case here, that they made promises that they couldn't keep. Therefore, every election promise from now on, whichever government makes a promise, they will have to keep it. Are we as citizens going to believe every promise that they keep? So I don't understand the question. We have a problem, let's discuss that. But we can't go back to, oh, you promised this, and therefore I'm going to protest and burn buses or whatever it is. So I don't understand. What was said earlier is absolutely correct. What you have in this year is that agricultural produce is up 7-10%. Prices of average agricultural produce is up. Farmer incomes are up. So therefore, what is different about this year than the previous 2 years? After all, this government has been in power for 3 years. And we had the worst possible drought 2 years in a row, and these problems were not there. What happened to the demand for the reneging of the promise in 2015-16 and 2014-15? What happened to all of these demands that they have to really live up to the election promise? So I don't understand where we are going. I think, look, all the data suggests this is a political problem. This is a political, if you will, instigated demonstration. And unless somebody proves to me how this year is manifestly worse or even worse at all than the previous 2 agricultural years.
P. Chengar Reddy, would you like to come in on that? Surjit Bhalla maintains that this appears to be orchestrated, instigated. This is a year when there's been a good year, a good monsoon, bumper crops. And why is it then that we're seeing this kind of anger, and is this real?
The problem arose in 2000 onwards. It was seriously there. In 2006, the Congress party appointed Swaminathan committee, and that report came, and for 8 years they didn't implement. And 2014, Mr. Modi came, and he virtually accepted to implement all the Swaminathan committee reports, such as inputs, cost, all these things. You see, the question today, economists and politicians should understand is, there are 2 fundamental factors. Firstly, political commitment is not there, whether it is Congress or Mr. Modi. Both of them are not sincere in regard to the implementing agriculture development programs. As I told you, this Congress for 8 years, they didn't go. Now today this chap Rahul Gandhi goes around talking as if he is going to save. I don't think he has ever read even Swaminathan committee report, nor he knows who Swaminathan is. Now leaving it aside, now I will come to this BJP government, both state as well as government of India. Now I am very perturbed about one thing. Mr. Modi, or to that matter Shivraj Singh Chauhan as well as Raman Singh, during their 10 years period have done remarkably well in agriculture. Therefore, when Modi became Prime Minister, he made a lot of promises. Now, what has happened in these 3 years is very surprising and shocking, which I only wish BJP government, Mr. Modi and everybody will start thinking. Why have you gone back on your promises, Mr. Modi? This is my question to Mr. Modi. It's not price alone. No, let me tell you, it's not price alone. Okay. For example, there are 4 or 5 things which Mr. Modi has promised us. He told us that he will make inputs available to everybody. He hasn't done it. See, inputs, what is inputs? Quality seed, fertilizer, pesticide. Don't say it is a simple state subject. That's not the way of escaping. Because if you say it is a state subject, then why did you include it in your national manifesto, Mr. Modi? BJP leaders have to answer. Then look at that other things. For example, he promised to give insurance, and he promised to give pension. He promised to give linking of Manrega with farmers. You see, the actually fact is that in the last 3 years, Mr. Modi somewhere has bungled. Actually, if you look back in Madhya Pradesh, Mr. Chauhan has done remarkably well. And the first thing Mr. Modi did to damage to Mr. Chauhan is stopping him not to give 200 rupees bonus, which he was giving earlier to wheat and rice.
Okay, fair point.
Now, I don't know why Mr. Modi did it. Now, coming back to the point today, now I want to request the media one very particular thing.
Yes.
Look, ma'am, the point today is firstly, why farmers issues?
Yes.
And what is the political problem? And what has happened in Madhya Pradesh, and this man, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Now, for God's sake, keep this Rahul Gandhi aside. You don't waste our time.
Okay, no, and we're not. And we were hoping to make this entirely not about politics and about the real issues, which is why, you know, that's exactly what we're discussing. But
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sujit Bhalla, come in on this. Mr. P. Chengal Reddy making the point that this isn't just about farm loan waivers or just about minimum support prices. There seems to be a whole list of promises that the farmer can now turn around and say were unfulfilled. And we've had the centre's own statement to the Supreme Court saying that there have been 12,000 farmer suicides every year since 2013. Now, that's not a statistic we can wish away.
Well, let me come to that statistic. It keeps coming up all the time. As it turns out, and exactly the same statistics suggest that in 2009, there were 17,000 farmer suicides. 2010, there were 16,000. 2011, there was 14,000. 2012, there was 13,700. 2013, 11,700. So look, you know, we keep banding about the statistic on suicides. There are more student suicides than there are farmer suicides. So now should student suicides be also of concern on national TV? And what should we do about it? Obviously, suicide is a personal decision. It's a very sad decision. It's a very sad occurrence. Why are we tying policy to farmer suicides?